On the morning of February 25, 2025, Taiwanese Coast Guard officers boarded a Chinese cargo ship drifting near Penghu Island. Its crew and cargo manifest raised no immediate alarms, but investigators believed something deliberate had happened beneath the hull, an intentional attempt to sever the undersea cable connecting Penghu to the rest of Taiwan. Most people will never think about the infrastructure targeted in this incident, because we're conditioned to believe our digital lives exist in an invisible cloud or beam down from satellites in orbit. The math tells a very different story. According to federal data, satellites carry less than 0.5% of America's international traffic. The overwhelming majority, nearly everything that connects the United States to the rest of the world online, runs through a network of about 500 cables lying flat against the seafloor. There are well over 1 million kilometers of these lines crossing the world's oceans today. Inside each one, bundles of glass fibers thinner than a human hair carry your emails, video calls, and bank transfers at the speed of light, all wrapped in a casing roughly the width of a garden hose. The modern digital backbone consists of these fragile physical threads, resting on the ocean floor and vulnerable to anyone with a heavy anchor and a set of coordinates. This vulnerability dates back to the 1860s, when the first transatlantic cables were laid. Those early systems were just a tarred rope of copper wire strung between continents to carry telegraph signals. We replaced them with telephone cables and eventually fiber optics, but the basic architecture, a thin line alone underwater, never changed. Because of that exposure, damage is extremely common. There are roughly 200 cable incidents every year across the globe. The vast majority of these are accidents, usually caused by ordinary commercial ships dropping anchor in the wrong place. During the Cold War, the United States exploited this exact physical setup. In a covert mission known as Operation Ivy Bells, American submarines located and successfully tapped Soviet undersea cables, intercepting military communications the Soviets assumed were entirely secure. The operation proved a crucial point. If a military possesses the specialized technology required to find and secretly splice into a deep-sea cable, they inherently possess the capability to sever it completely. For decades, governments treated the physical exposure of the internet as an acceptable intelligence loophole or an unavoidable risk of maritime commerce. It was a strategic footnote. By late 2024, that calculus shifted. Multiple cables in the Baltic Sea were cut within about a year of each other. The frequency and location of these breaks formed a pattern that was too concentrated to ignore, suggesting a new era of active, intentional sabotage. In September 2025, 15 separate cables were severed simultaneously in the Red Sea. These cuts occurred specifically at the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. Look at the physical geography here. This narrow stretch of water forces shipping lanes and data cables to squeeze tightly together between the landmasses, creating an unavoidable bottleneck for the global internet. Because so many lines route through this exact geographic pinch point, severing them at once caused an immediate cascading failure. Internet traffic across the Middle East and South Asia slowed to a crawl for weeks. The synchronized nature of these cuts suggested that the internet's physical choke points were no longer just geographic curiosities, but active strategic targets, capable of blinding massive portions of the globe. That realization prompted a sudden reckoning in Washington. On a Thursday in November 2025, the House Homeland Security Subcommittee convened a hearing to confront the threats facing America's undersea infrastructure. The conclusion on the record was blunt. The nation that manages the bulk of the global internet's backbone traffic openly admitted to itself that it lacked the coordination, the deterrence, and the actual physical defenses to protect it. What followed was a legislative scramble to patch the holes. The House passed the Undersea Cable Control Act to restrict foreign adversaries from acquiring maintenance equipment, while the FCC completely overhauled its licensing process to permanently block companies tied to hostile nations. Engineers are now testing technological countermeasures, specifically retrofitting existing cables with acoustic sonar sensors. The goal is to detect the low-frequency sound of an approaching ship, or an anchor, moving too close, buying responders a few precious minutes before a line goes dark. But these frantic legal and technological patches highlight a deeper logistical problem. This is a superpower trying to retroactively armor an infrastructure that was physically designed to be undefendable. The vulnerability comes down to sheer mathematical scale. The United States alone has roughly 750,000 miles of cable connected to its interests worldwide. Designating restricted protection zones works for smaller nations, but the U.S. simply does not have the maritime fleet to scale that approach. A handful of designated Coast Guard cutters and naval ships are statistically incapable of patrolling a network of this immense size. It takes hundreds of millions of dollars and highly complex, specialized vessels to lay and repair a fiber optic cable, and it takes only a single, ordinary cargo ship dropping a heavy piece of iron to completely destroy it. Securing this network remains an unsolved equation until we stop looking up at the